Hey, thank you all so much for joining another episode of Celeste, the Therapist Podcast. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston, and I have a special guest. I'm going to have him introduce himself to you all.
Hi, my name is Jermaine Morris. I'm a coach and consultant based out of Sacramento, California. And everything that I do is based upon a DISC assessment, where I like to highlight the importance of self awareness without judgment.
Nice. And then for people that are new and just listening to us for the first time, like when you say self awareness without judgment, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, looking at the ways that we do things, how we interact with people, how we communicate, how we process information, and then looking through it through the lens of just is, as opposed
Hmm.
to if it's good, bad, right, or wrong. We can look at the
Hmm.
end results and see if they're what the desired goal is. And if it's
Hmm.
not, we can make the necessary steps to change it, but not getting so hung up on if this is how I should or shouldn't be doing something.
Yeah, that's really good. And I realize a lot of people don't understand that. And now we are towards the end of the year. And one of the things that you want to discuss is this idea of being okay or the importance of being able to say no. I realize a lot of people say yes. I always tell people like no is a complete sentence. And I know that's really hard for some people to like kind of reconcile with, uh, especially when they're not used to it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this word no, right, that where people, may ask you for something or need something or whatever, and people struggle with really being honest about not being able to do it. Why do you think that no word feels hard for people?
Depending upon how we are raised, how we come up,
Hmm.
sometimes it's this feeling of obligation, depending upon who's doing the
Yeah.
asking.
Hmm.
Maybe like our parents or our family dynamic, we feel like, well, it's family, I have to. It may be our children. We just feel like we just have to do it. It's our kids, as well as like church or whatever type of thing. Sometimes we feel like to say no, we can't do something is an indictment on our own abilities. Like every time I say no, I can't do this, I'm saying I can't do it. Instead, then that's saying that this is maybe I may view that as a deficiency or I see myself as less than because I'm not capable of doing everything that's asked of me.
Oh yeah, let's pause for a second right there. So the obligation thing, I think so I want to talk about that, but also this feeling like the inadequacy by saying no, because I've heard people say that like at work or is it one of the main things I can think of where if they don't know how to do it or they don't want to feel inadequate or the fear, so they say yes out of fear or not wanting to be seen as they don't know enough.
Yeah.
What for people that struggle with saying no around that part of, instead of just saying yes, like saying no, I can't. Can you help me or can you show me? Can you help people think about that when it comes to work or new things? I always tell people we can't know everything. There's so much to know, but people will say yes, and then they have all this anxiety because they really didn't mean to just say yes. They really needed a little bit more support. So not like a complete no, but like I need a little bit of support.
Yeah, so I think so it goes across the table of something from I currently don't know how to do this,
Mhm.
all the way to I know how to do it, but I don't even know if I have time to do it.
Yeah.
So if you start off
Oh
with
yeah.
saying yes to something and I'm not 100% sure how to do it, I may not want to highlight, and I know most people hate the word, but my ignorance in this subject.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And ignorance is just a lack of knowledge of something. It's not an
That's
insult,
it. Yeah.
but it's typically used as an insult. So to say that I just don't know about this,
Mhm.
sometimes our ego won't let us do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe our current the climate of where we are, like if we're at a job and I'm not going to be the one that says I can't do something.
I know.
Like
Especially if you're the one black person or,
the
I think
one
sometimes people
woman,
try.
they debating on who they're going to lay off at the end of the
I
year.
know, I
There's
know.
cutbacks all throughout the company. Like there can be a million and one reasons why.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the squeaky wheel.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
I'm just gonna say yes and figure it out later.
I
Uh,
know.
and so sometimes we say yes to stuff that we are not, we're not knowledgeable of it, or maybe we are to a degree, but we're not really. Somebody else should be handling this, but
Mhm.
because of what we think that will mean to somebody else, which really means what that means to ourselves, we go ahead
Mhm,
and say
mhm.
yes. And like I said, that sliding scale all the way to, oh no, I'm completely aware of how to do it. I'm completely aware of what it takes to get done, but I got 15 other things
That
that need,
time
like,
management.
I am capable of doing what is
Mhm.
being asked of me, but I'm not able to right now. But
Mhm.
I'll still say yes because maybe I'm always the able person.
Mhm, mhm.
Uh, I'm always the yes, the go-to person.
But I mean, being unfortunately, I think people sometimes wear that as a badge, or the idea of wanting or feeling needed, being the go-to person. That actually feels good for some
Yeah,
people. But at what cost? Them saying yes, like, I think, some people may be growing up in systems where maybe they were the oldest or a lot was put on them, and so they get off on feeling needed, for lack of a better term. Like, they feel great about being needed, but then maybe they're feeling needed and getting this high, but then later on, they're feeling this low, or their relationships are struggling, or their relationship with their kids, like, looking at the ways in which you saying yes all the time without looking at your schedule or your calendar, like how it affects you.
well, yeah, because there's still a badge of honor in
Yeah.
martyrdom, as well as bragging rights for taking care of everything.
Yeah.
Like if I handled all 10 things, regardless of what it did to me internally, but I got it
Yeah.
done, you can't tell me nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or if it gets to the point to where my behavior is maybe not desirable, here's my built-in reason why.
Mm.
And so we have people who you can say yes to too many things to excuse other aspects of our lives because we can use that as the shield. I worked 60 hours this week. Don't talk to me about my mood. You
Oh
know,
gosh.
I did overtime. You left early. Don't ever talk to me about how to do anything.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? Or the family dynamic of I'm the one that made, I worked all day and then still came and brought desserts to the family function.
I know.
We'll take on all this stuff that's beyond our ability to function in a healthy space, and then we can use that in unhealthy ways in other parts of our life.
Mhm, mhm. And I really feel like people sometimes don't see any other possibility. They'll think like this is the way it is. Like, how can it be any better? And not realizing the trajectory and how saying yes and doing for everyone else, how it's affecting themselves individually or their home life. And I think about the idea of saying yes kind of avoids the conflict externally. I say
Yeah,
conflict like, there may not be a conflict, but it may feel like a conflict
yeah.
if you were to have to say no. But inside, a lot of people don't know what it's doing to their insides because they're not, it's just always been like that. It's always been on high alert. Does that part make sense about avoiding the conflict outside, how it just keeps the conflict inside going?
Yeah, I saw a great quote. I don't make sure I don't butcher it. It says, um, "I'm not
I've
going to keep the peace with you to be at war with myself."
Yeah, that's deep. That I haven't heard that one. I heard some similar, but that's
Yeah,
deep. War with yourself. Who
yeah.
chooses
I'm gonna
war with
I'm gonna keep the peace
themselves?
with you and just say yes. But
I
internally, I
know.
got high blood pressure. My stomach's always
I
messed up. I got
know.
migraine
I
headaches.
know.
I can't sleep. My diet is like I'm at war with myself. Every aspect of my body is
Yeah,
fighting itself to be cool with you to just say yes
I
to
know.
whatever your demands are.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
And it happens more often than like, this topic is, like, unfortunately so common for people. And a lot of times people live in survival mode. They've never had autonomy. Some people grew up in systems where they never had choices or autonomy. And so their default, unfortunately, has been yes. The idea of saying no, like, they sweat, like the idea of like choosing what's best for them feels hard. And that has to be a hard way to live when you can't have autonomy over your choices and you allow the external to affect you internally.
yeah, you always feel like there's some people like, I can say no.
Yeah,
Like
no.
the even idea of saying, wait a minute, I can tell you no. That was the
Mhm.
actual request.
Mhm,
I don't have
mhm,
to work Saturday, or I can tell mom no,
mhm.
or I don't have to pick up,
Yeah.
cousin from the airport. Like, without a built-in excuse that no is enough.
Mhm.
There's some of us walking around that concept is not even it's foreign. The idea that no is not only a complete sentence, but it is a justified response.
Yeah, yeah.
That it doesn't have to be
Yep,
no because I have kids, or no because
right.
I have to do this, or no because I'm sick. It's just simply no as a complete
Mhm.
sentence, a complete answer, a complete thought, and a justified reason.
Yeah. And I wanna point out, because since I did mention work, I do wanna point out that, it's accurate that the yes people tend to on get rewarded, whether bonuses or um, like recognition in the emails chain, the company email chain. That person that's always saying yes, right? And the person that's prioritizing their wellness, they're doing their job, but they are not overextending themselves because they just don't have the bandwidth. Like
Yeah.
I want to say that and acknowledge that out loud. And kind of thinking about what your values are. I feel like we've talked about this a few times on what your values are, and if you've recognized like I don't have peace, I want to value my home life and that kind of thing. Maybe that person that says yes don't have anything, nobody to go home to, or maybe they're struck. Like who knows? But trying to be mindful that everybody's situation is different, and just because you don't get that acknowledgement, remembering like your values if you have to say no for work. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think that when we talk about those values, or our principles, or our beliefs,
Yeah.
having an honest conversation with ourselves. Because if
Yeah.
we say that this is what I value, this is what my beliefs, this is my principles, whatever these things
Mhm.
are, and we keep abandoning those to say yes to somebody else, and it conflicts with us,
Mhm.
um, either a maybe these values, what we say is not actually what's important to us. Like we'll say these beliefs are what they are, but if we
Mm. Mhm.
constantly don't hold boundaries to them, and we constantly cave in them, are they really our beliefs? Are they really our values? Or B, we need to start honoring them,
Yeah.
because if they really are our beliefs, and they really are our principles, and they really are our values, okay, then we need to start honoring them by using the word no when they're infringed upon, or they're being compromised. But I think a
Mm.
lot of times we'll say stuff like, "Man, my family's first. I put my family over everything. Hey, man,
Uh-huh.
I got to get home early because Junior's playing in the Little League Championship, and I told him I never miss a game. Hey, we need you to stay and work overtime. Okay, okay. Well, your value system speech you just gave me was you're on your way home now because your
Yeah.
family's first above all else, and you're not going to miss this game. But the first time your values were questioned, you caved,
Mhm.
so either they're not as important as you're saying they are, or we need to start practicing a little more honoring of those things, and starting to say no when they're being infringed upon.
Yeah, that's good. And work is one place, right? There's that
Yeah,
kind of power dynamic that's there. But also when it comes to our family,
yeah,
this is a little bit more trickier. Nobody wants to be alone or feel like they're disconnected from people. But I find that because of, as we're working on change, or we're recognizing like we're the yes person and we're drained, and people don't know that because we're not speaking up. Some people
yeah.
don't speak up, and nobody's asking. How can people reconcile with that part? Because at the end of the day, when you start putting up boundaries, exposes like toxicity, and that's the hard part is like, wow, they don't want to talk to me, or they're treating me a certain way. They're being passive aggressive.
Yeah.
How do you work with people around like the family piece of saying no?
So then this is where the prioritization of what's actually most important to me
Mhm.
is. if I'm at the space where, okay, I've given in, I've caved to everybody else. I've done that for, 5 years of my adult life, 10 years of it, 20 years of it, however long I've been doing this. And I hate the way I feel. I feel drained. I feel exhausted. I didn't get any of my stuff done. I feel, um, I don't feel appreciated. Shoot, I mean, I didn't feel respected. I'm showing up for everybody. Nobody's showing up for me. Whatever that dynamic is, if you sit there and say, okay, I am not okay with this current state, okay, then we're going to prioritize getting into a better state. What does it take to get into a better state? It means changing the behavior that leads to my current state. What does that look like? Okay, I say yes to everything. That's how I got here. That was the road that got me here. I said yes to everybody. Okay, so unless I want to keep ending up at the same destination, I have to use different directions. So now, if I said yes to everybody, that's how I got here, I have to start saying no in order to end up in a different destination. So I don't want to be here anymore. So how do I not be here? So this is where it's like, okay, some folks' feelings gonna get hurt. Somebody got to be the left. Like, I've just been doing these circles. I've been making all rights for 15 years. Somebody got to be on left. And and that's just
I
going
love that analogy of the directions, because if you keep ending up in the wrong place, you're not going to keep going there.
Yeah.
And I find that people can identify the issue but struggle with the solution. And so me going in the wrong place it's so familiar, so I'm used to it, like
Yeah.
used to going that way. And the idea of trying to like turn around, go to a different direction probably feels really hard
It
because it's
does. But
unfamiliar.
if you called the wrong number, I called 555-1234, and I got the
Uh-huh.
wrong number. So then I
Mhm.
call it back again to see, and I call 555-1234, and I get the same person who just told me it was the
Yeah,
wrong number.
yeah.
Am I going to keep dialing 551-234 until, or do I, at some point, I have to change one of these digits?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
at some point, one of these numbers needs to be different than the last
yeah,
5 times I called it.
yeah,
Even the person
yeah,
on the phone everyone's be, look, man, what are you dialing? 1234? Try 23456. Like
yeah,
try call somebody else, like any other number. And so to
yeah.
get off that track of, okay, I don't know. And some of us, we're not in our space yet to say no to mom, or we're not in the space yet to say no to dad or to the boss. But maybe
Mhm.
the cousins got to start. Maybe it's the neighbor. We got to dial one digit differently. Like
Yeah.
there's got to be something different to get us to a different destination, to get us to a different connection, because
Mhm.
the, we overextend ourselves, uh, mentally, emotionally, physically,
Financially.
financially, all
Mhm,
that stuff. Especially this time of year, going into, because now it's just a hop, skip, and jump through the Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New
mhm,
Year's. Like, it's just holiday, holiday, holiday. It's just money, 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 and it's
mhm,
time, 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 time for other people.
mhm,
So we're doing things for our children. We're doing big gatherings with our family. We're buying gifts for our loved ones. We really overextend ourselves the last quarter of the year, and find ourselves January 1st talking about how we need to make the reason for first quarter resolutions are because of no fourth
burnt
quarter
out. I
plans.
never thought about that.
Yeah, first quarter resolutions are motivated by no boundaries in the fourth quarter. I'm gonna get my money right in January because I've overextended from October through December.
I know.
I'm gonna rest and take some time for me in the new year because I gave all my time and energy and efforts away to everybody else who needed something in the fourth quarter.
Mhm.
Like that whole first quarter resolutions are dramatically motivated by a lack of boundaries in the fourth quarter of the year before.
Hmm. I never heard it said that way, but it probably makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting because people prepare themselves to be stressed. It's wild, but they'll be like, "Oh, I got this and I got to cook." And I was like, "You don't have to cook. You choose to cook." Like, let's pause. I'm always like trying to pause people because they're so used to living in stress around the holidays that they just expect it and not even see their power in the
Right.
situation. What are your thoughts about the preparation for stress?
Oh, you got to get ready because it's like a Christmas Carol. It's the most boundaryless time of the year. Yeah, it's it's showing up everywhere we don't want to be. We're around
Yeah.
everybody we don't want to deal with. We're spending money we know we don't have on people we
Mhm.
know won't fully appreciate it. It's the most boundaryless time of the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that lack of saying no, and I think that not only is there so much power in saying no, it's a necessity to say no. Like it can't be.
Necessity for what?
It's a
Necessity.
necessity for our own mental and emotional and physical
Yep.
well-being,
Yep.
for our bank account.
Yep.
You know, we plan on going broke the last quarter of the year.
We do. Yep.
Like
The
we
credit card companies will up your limit during that time
oh, they
because
know.
they know.
They
They
know people can't
know
say
what
no.
time it is.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
they know the game.
Yep. Yep.
And everybody knows that's when you hit people up. Man, it's the holiday season. People who you wouldn't call back in July are hitting you up for money in November.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're saying yes.
Yeah.
You know, this lack of boundaries, lack of self-appreciation. And like I said, for our time, we have so many more things going on. We're getting pulled in every direction. And then we can't understand why we'll say, I can't wait for this to be over. Yes, because we've overextended ourselves due to a lack of boundaries, a lack of a clear distinction of what our values and principles really are, and then
Mhm.
standing on them.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing, saying no when you can't, because it's not like we're not just saying be a Grinch and say no.
Oh,
We're talking about if you don't have the bandwidth or capacity. People don't even we talk we're saying understand your values, understand your bandwidth and
yeah,
capacity too, so you can recognize when, because I say no a lot, I say yes a lot as well.
yeah,
But I'm at a space where I understand my bandwidth. But also, and I want you to expand on this, like no avoids you being resentful to people that never forced you to say yes,
yeah,
honestly, right?
yeah. And we'll get mad at other people who keep asking us, but they have to remember they have no reason to not ask us if we always say yes.
We become the yes person,
Yeah,
exactly.
like there's
Yeah, I was
and
the yes person, you know what I'm saying? I already know the vibes.
and no doesn't always come with a conflict. Like for some people, I there are people who really have Rolodex type lifestyles. I'm calling person A, and if person A says no, I'm on the B. And if B don't say yes, I'm on the C. I'm on them through the D's. I'm through the E. Like they just go through their little mental Rolodex of names so they get what they need. It's not such a big deal to everybody that we may think it's gonna be to us. Well, I'm gonna ask Celeste if you can do this. We think it, well, if I say no, it's going to be an argument, or they feel like they can't depend on me. They're going to talk mess about me to people. But my mind is, Celeste, can you do this? No. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, can you, like,
It's funny because Jeff on the episode we did live, he was sharing that he was at a gathering and a family member asked him for a ride. It was a completely opposite, different direction, and he couldn't believe. He's like, "Why would she ask me?" And he said, "Yeah." And then he said something to her. She said, "Well, I figured if you was dumb enough to say yeah, I was gonna ask." Like, it's like, hey, it's a hit or miss. If you say yeah, I got it right. If not, I don't. Like,
you
and
miss
that's the
100% of the
thing.
shots you don't take?
Yeah, and people will really be upset around them asking. And I said, well, you and there'll be like family members where I said, well, they'll say they never asked Joe Smo. And I said, yeah, because John Smo has the boundaries up and knows, they know, like I already know Joe's not gonna do it. But they ask you, and they be like, why would they ask me? They know I have this, they don't have that, and they know you say yes.
Yes.
Right. And so I think people look for people to respond or be the way that they would be, because I wouldn't ask you knowing you have all that on your plate, but I'm not you. That's the thing. You got to understand that everybody's not going to show up the way you show up in life.
No, and the percentage of people who are hyper aggressive, who are really focused, really decision and goal orientated and solution orientated people is actually a very small percentage. So
Hmm.
most people will cave to some degree with those types of people. So if you're
Mm.
that type of person, so say if I needed $20,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask you for 100 if I'm that kind of person. All I
Mm-hmm.
needed was 20. And I'm gonna start the negotiations at 100. You may eventually agree to 50.
Hmm.
All I needed was 20.
Yeah.
But if you're on the other side, man, I don't, and I came in saying, man, my money's tight. And then all of a sudden my brother hits me up for the 100. Now I make this whole thing about what I think it means and what it's going to turn into. And then I don't want to seem like this kind of brother. And I don't want to,
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah.
100, man. But I mean, I guess I could do 50 for you.
Yeah. People go off of emotions with finances and what they
Yeah.
give. It's like they feel bad.
Yeah. And we'll
And I'll
say
tell
yes
people,
and give and
uh-huh. And it's like, especially there's people, they don't have anybody else to depend on. They're struggling and trying to save themselves. And so they may have a little bit in their savings, but it's kind of like that's your rainy day that you're giving to someone else and you have nothing to fall back on.
yeah.
So it's like so important to think about, especially with the finances, especially women. I find women do this a lot, very emotionally giving, being mindful on like, do I really, like, if I can't get this back, am I okay? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, is that, am I good? Because people be like they'll be feeling bad for somebody else struggling. I'd be like, you struggling too. Yeah, did you forget about yourself? It's like people forget about themselves and their struggle because they have, and they'll say like, "Oh, I just have so much love, or I'm so um to give." Like that's like I hate that. It's like, no, that's not a bad thing, but you just got to put boundaries up. That's all. The love that you have for people or wanting to give is okay, but it can't be done without any boundaries.
Exactly. And so the two part to that is, it was like that quote that says that givers need to set boundaries because takers seldom do.
I never heard that, but it's true.
Yeah, yeah. Givers need to set the boundaries because
Yeah.
takers seldom do.
Yeah, yeah.
But the other side of that is that abundant givers often are always giving of themselves. And if you ask them, they'll tell you they don't have anybody. So
Mhm.
an abundant giver will tell you, I don't have a me to lean on.
They don't.
I
Yeah.
don't have a me that will say yes and show up like that. So I show up for
Yeah.
everybody else, but no one shows up
Yeah.
for me. You'll hear that
Yeah.
type of talk from abundant
Yeah.
givers.
Yeah.
However, that's not the case for abundant takers. Abundant takers have a Rolodex of people that they go through when they come and ask for stuff. So
That's so
we'll put
true.
the abundant giver will take their reality and place that on the abundant taker and say,
Yeah.
just like I know what it's like to not have anybody, I assume that's their reality too, and that they don't have anybody. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give because I know what it's like to not have somebody that I can lean on.
Yeah.
Not realizing that that abundant taker has other people that they can go to.
Right, 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 right. They're not
Well,
telling you that.
well, even they may not even tell you that. Like it'll just be the thought process of I know my life and I know I don't have somebody to fall back on and I know what
Yeah.
that feels like. So I
Yeah.
want to be there for somebody else. And that may not be the reality of the person that you're putting that on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you'll benevolently dig yourself into a hole.
Yeah.
You'll bury yourself physically, emotionally, financially with the best of intentions
Yeah. Yeah, for
over
sure.
reality that may or may not even be true.
Yeah. And this, we haven't touched on this, but speaking of maybe not have had these things growing up, parents, right? Who struggle with saying no, and you know maybe your childhood wasn't the best, or you didn't have a lot, and so you overly give. What are your thoughts about that?
Um, Twofold, I think two part as well. I think that there's the scarcity mindset motivation of when you grow up without, so you feel an extra kind of twinge to give. You hear that I want to give my kids everything I didn't have. That thought
At what
process
cost?
doesn't matter for some of them. And then there is a big deal about parental guilt. So for all the things that we think we might have done wrong or dropped the ball, or we feel maybe I worked too many hours, maybe I was going through personal challenges and I don't feel like I showed up for you like I think I should have. So I'm going to give to
Oh
you
yeah.
to try to pay for the parental guilt of
Yeah.
something that I feel inadequate that happened in my parenting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I'm giving you money at 22 because I feel like I should have been home more when you were 12.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And trying, I mean, whether like, for this specific case, really trying to reconcile with what's happened, because we can't go back and change the past.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I have a lot of I have a lot of empathy for parents. I just look at I feel like my kids' cheat code is they have a mom that's a therapist, somebody whose parent is a financial advisor. They're really good with money, I'm sure, the kid. And there's been times, even the other day, like Fridays, Fridays I work half a day, and then or I don't even cook. I just order food. And that Friday, I had overbooked myself, and I remember feeling irritable, and I couldn't understand. My husband was like, "I'm surprised you was working the rest of the day Friday. That's usually your time off." And I completely forgot. But I knew, like, any little thing the kid would do, like if they like that wouldn't annoy me before, I knew I was going to be annoyed. So I said, "Hey, listen, I'm feeling irritable. I'm feeling annoyed right now. So I need you guys to just I asked him to do a couple of things. I said, I need you to do it. And please don't give me a hard time because I'm not in a space to deal with it. I literally, like, my emotional intelligence or wellness around myself and my irritability allows me to parent in a way where, like, I'm recognizing that I don't have the patience to deal with you giving me a hard time today. And I realize a lot of parents don't understand, like, how to recognize that irritability or recognize when they're struggling, and notice when it's being projected onto the kids.
Yeah.
I have a lot of empathy for parents because of we didn't grow up. I didn't grow up learning about my, like, wellness in that way. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. And I think part of it that goes into is that those parents, some of them, they recognize where their limit is because they know they're only good at work until 3 o'clock on a shift that ends at 6.
Mm-hmm.
They know that, like, I can get 4.5 days of this week, but I know the second half of this
Mm-hmm.
last day, I don't need no hiccups. I don't want to hear nobody. I don't need no problems. Like, the recognition of where the cup is getting full is there. But
Mm-hmm.
you realize that there's kind of there's a limit. There's a
Yeah.
regulator on how much you can really wild out, like when you're on the
Mm-hmm.
job. Like, you just let everybody know to kind of be on notice, and then you just kind of fall back and try to wait till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the problem with parenting, and that's great. That's great. Your take. There's sometimes as parents, there's not the self-regulation on how we express
Right.
when we're fed up. It's, I'm mom, I'm dad, I'm the parent, you the child. You gonna get these words, you gonna get this attitude, you gonna get what, like,
Right.
when
That's
I'm
not
fed up, I'm
cool.
like, everybody in the house just gonna have to be on the receiving end.
Yeah.
So the fact that if you could not only identify but then articulate, like, hey, just like, I'm here, like, let's just, everybody, when I say put the dishes in the dishwasher, just put them in the dishwasher, just take out the trash, just like,
Yeah.
and to be able to do it on this side of the line as as opposed to
Yeah, I
on the
know.
other side of the line,
Yeah.
when you knew it was coming.
Yeah. And some people were raised in that environment where they were used to that kind of demeanor,
Oh yeah.
where, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not about me trying to say fault. I'm just saying, like, for people to understand where it's coming from. Cause
Yeah.
I feel like the more educated we are around our, like, wellness and our emotional needs, the
Yeah.
better we can be as people individually for ourselves and in relationship, whether it's our partner, our kids, work, like, whoever it is. And I think people just think this is how I am. And it's not the case.
Yeah, because that's the big part about the self-awareness part. If you know you've got, at a scale of 1 to 10, you are 7 before it's problematic. Somebody else may be a 3, somebody may be a 9, some people whatever, but 7 is for you. That's not a judgment on if you should have more in your cup or not.
Nope.
It's about being aware that, okay, I got till 7. And then after that, this clear articulation and transparent expressions of emotions, that's all out the window once we get to 7.1.
Yeah.
So when I'm at 6, like, let me start. I can't control other people, but let me start putting things in place I can
Exactly.
control me. So that if that
Right.
means I need to maybe voice, look, I'm going in my room for a while, please, nobody disturb me.
Literally what I just
Absolute
explained.
emergency.
Yep.
Unless it's an absolute emergency, I need
Mhm.
the next 30, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever to myself. I may
Mhm.
need till tomorrow, whatever.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
Instead of cooking all the time, and I know I'm at 6.5 and I haven't started cooking yet, that might be
Mhm.
an order out night.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And it's gonna be,
And it's gonna be okay.
yeah.
And,
Uh,
the example I gave, I didn't judge myself for
yeah,
it, like, I didn't feel like, "Oh my gosh," like and I know some people that's what I love giving examples because I think people think because 'cause I'm a therapist that I'm, like, obsolete from, like, the experiences that happen as a
the
parent.
Zen master.
Yeah, and I just wanna be clear, like, I have those same experiences, just learning how to manage it and where you're telling them because the, um the communication is important because I only work with adults and their mind the parent was always mad or they didn't know what they was going to get cuz they maybe something happened at work but it wasn't like communicated because we're not used to having especially in the Black community we're not used to having dialogue with our kids as parents because we look at them as oh they're kids but they got emotional needs we're grooming them on how to be as they get older and
Yeah.
we don't think about it that deeply but when you think about your life and how you've been affected you were being groomed whether explicitly or not like on how to be as an adult which is why you ignore your emotional needs today, right?
Especially, yeah, and especially if you grew up in those households where when you were young and maybe you had the wherewithal and the awareness to start saying, okay, I'm starting to feel this way, and when I have to do this, and you may have had a parent who interpreted that as talking back,
I
or you
know
had a parent who interpreted you becoming aware of your feelings and emotions and your bandwidth and your level.
who
They
cares
interpreted
like
that as
yeah
challenging them.
yeah
So then, depending upon how that was addressed, you may have been taught at a young age that expressing myself or expressing my needs is wrong. Like
yeah
there's a conflict and a consequence to saying I can't do something or I don't feel like I feel like I'm at my limit.
yeah that's true yeah
And then you get as an adult the same correlate, it's the same attachment. Okay,
hmm
well, I don't want to say no because I remember when I was saying I feel overwhelmed when I was 11, I got
hmm
hit with both barrels about being
right
disrespectful or unappreciative or
yeah
whatever.
yeah
And so now I feel like obligated to say
yeah
yes because when
yeah
I say no, I have the same feelings attached to that childhood experience
oh
in my
yeah
current relationship or my relationship
right
with my job or my relationship with my friendship circle or and we have that same emotional that's why it's the self-awareness part.
yeah
What are the beliefs I have around these beliefs,
yeah
you know?
and you can like because sometimes people tell me the story and they'll be like oh but that was 20 years ago I was like yeah but you can still be affected right and so I think about like the attachment piece so it's kind of like how could I be attached to something early on the idea of expressing your needs or saying no like not specifically saying no but really acknowledging what's happening and saying it out loud as an adult, you're not going to get in trouble, but your system will feel the same feelings that you felt as a child, believe it or not. Like that literally can happen where because your mind only has information that it's been exposed to. And if it's only been exposed to you always saying yes, because the moment you start saying no or trying to like take care of your own needs, it twists and turns and you're sweating and your heart's beating and you feel these physiological changes and don't understand it's because your system is scared that you're about to get in trouble again when you need to tell your system no it's okay this is what we need. That's why that like awareness not just intellectually but physically like how is your body responding is important because so many of us our bodies are living in chaos on high alert when there's nothing happening right now but it feels like something's happening.
Oh yeah, all those, and especially if you had a childhood experience like that that was confirmed as an adult.
Yeah.
If you were in a relationship and the first time you said no, that turned into an argument.
Right. Right.
Or if you were some dynamic and you had at your job or within your friendship, the first time you didn't cater to somebody else's will or whims or even just question, it was met with backlash or conflict. That
Mhm.
at 32 would confirm the 12-year-old belief system and
Yeah.
cement that in like, oh, see, I'm not like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not supposed to voice my opinion. I'm not supposed
Mhm.
to do all that. And something that's important if you're an abundant giver, that's kind of the
Mhm.
term I give. Some people
Mm.
call them people pleasers or they call them miscellaneous things. I
I
just say
like abundant giver. It sounds good.
if you're an abundant giver, something to be mindful of is that abundant takers can recognize an abundant giver.
For real.
So the demand sheet is never empty. Like
Yeah.
there's and so sometimes they've learned the game on how to continue to
Yeah.
ask and show those things. That's why it's what are the beliefs, what are the values, what are the principles, what's important, and I need to learn how to stand on those regardless of these other circumstances.
Mhm.
It's a necessity to say no.
Mhm.
And I've always been a believer, just quotes today, I always believe that you're the master of what you say no to, but the slave to what you say yes to.
Yeah, that's true.
And
It's true.
so to be able to keep life in front of us, no it's a regulator.
Mhm.
Let me just say no off top. Keep the world in front of me.
Mhm.
And then I may be able to reevaluate, and maybe one of the two of those no's might turn to yeses if it actually makes sense.
Mhm.
But I'm going to keep, and that's so talking about the body to let you know if you're saying yes too many times, your body's a
Your
snitch.
body, like, it'll let you know. When you start paying attention to it, you'll feel it in real
It's a
time.
snitch.
Mhm.
It's a straight snitch.
Mhm.
It's going to keep you from sleeping. It's going to
Mhm.
keep you from eating, or it's going to have you eating abundantly. Your stomach's going to be twisted up. You're going to have
Mhm.
digestion problems, migraines, um, muscle aches, joint issues,
I'm
uneasy.
sure that the GIs, the gastro doctors are booming because
Yeah.
so many people are having stomach issues. And I wish there was a way this not, because it never fails when I'm talking to people, they're pairing it with something that's going on
Mhm.
and they're not understanding what's happening, but they're giving people like different meds to like, here, try this or try that. And a lot of times it has to do with the way we're operating. And unfortunately, that's not as talked about, our operation level. Like, how do we take accountability of our life? How do we? Because when I wasn't taught the mind body connection, right? I didn't realize like the lack of oxygen I was getting at one point was because I'm overwhelmed and stressed, right? I'm thinking it's separate. Like, how is it that at 20 years old I don't know this? That's insane to me. You know what I mean? And so like this is things that like I really want, and that's why I created this podcast, is to educate people around wellness and what it looks like. And it's not always just going to the doctor. It's like taking accountability and getting uncomfortable and saying no is a prescription I would give to some
Yes.
people. Right? Like sometimes that's the script. I gotta say no, and guess what? It's gonna be uncomfortable. I broke my toe and it was very uncomfortable, right? I had to adjust. And so, like, your script of say your prescription, maybe I need to say no. It's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're going to have to adjust. People around you are going to have to adjust. If they really care about you, they will take your no and let it stand, right? And then you're going to find out some people who may not be there for you when you start saying no. And that's hard. I'm not going to say, oh, they weren't for you. I'm going to say that's a hard thing to reconcile with and have to grieve. But you know what? That's what it is. And the acceptance of that is important.
Yeah. I look at it like, have you ever walked out on a movie?
Yeah.
Like you're 30 minutes in, and this is just like I could really be doing laundry instead. Like like I've already decided I don't like the actors. I don't. The plot is whatever. I don't even
Mhm.
like the background music. I've made a decision 30 minutes in. I do not like this movie.
Mhm.
So am I going to sit through it for another hour after I already know I don't like where I'm sitting at.
Right.
So these relationship dynamics will change, but
Yeah.
you already don't like the movie.
That's true.
So it's not a question of, oh, it was a good movie and I have to leave a movie I was enjoying.
Mhm.
The reason why you feel compelled to have to start saying no is because the dynamic is already not working.
Mhm.
You're already calling the wrong number, like you're already
Mhm.
showing up in the wrong location. So if it
Mhm.
changes, okay, because you didn't like the movie anyway.
Mhm.
So the idea, well, some people are going to be unhappy. Some people may be passive aggressive. Some people may not even want to fool with you because you're known as the yes person. And if you're not the
Mhm.
yes person, what do I need you for?
Right,
So
right,
that's why you're here, because you're the yes person. You the person who's gonna get me to
right.
the airport, who's gonna come by, water my plants, gonna float me $50, gonna be the designated driver. Like you the yes person. And
Yeah.
so if that's gonna change, then why are you here? Abundant taker philosophy. And if
Mhm.
that's the case, is that a movie you want to sit through?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
You know, it's go ahead.
No, and then it's like sometimes you're the yes person because that's the system you set up.
Yep.
And awareness without judgment, right? Forgiving yourself for what you didn't know. Because a lot of times, when I'm working with people and the awareness comes, they're like, I can't believe I allowed. And I was like, you did what you knew. Like that was the system. I'll help them correlate it to their history and letting them know, like that's the system you grew up in. So that's what you knew. Now you can do better. I said, if your kid or somebody you love came and said, oh, I can't believe it, you wouldn't be beating them up the way you're beating yourself up. And so recognizing that maybe that relationship dynamic was set up because of how you were always saying yes. And that was the basis in which it was built. And because you're changing it, the relationship doesn't work anymore. Yes, it's hard, but also it wasn't working anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so like being okay with resetting and starting anew is going to be important.
Yeah. And I would also take, if even if you did know, like
Yeah.
it's one thing
Good.
is I got the sense of awareness and I didn't know, and I know now that it's not working for me. Here's why. Even if you went into it knowing it didn't work,
Mhm. Yeah.
like
Still.
still deciding that I know I was driving right all
Yeah.
day. I knew
Yeah.
that. I knew I kept going right. I knew I kept passing the same red barn. I knew that. But I'm deciding to do something different today. I don't care how many times I've driven past it in the past. So that may have been
Mhm.
our whole friendship since high school. Like I've been the go-to person for the whole clique since the 10th grade, you know, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And that is okay.
Mhm.
And if that changes the dynamic amongst these people, they're going to get either introduced to the new me and we'll figure
Mhm.
out a new dynamic within this group, or there may be, where they switched out Aunt Viv's after the third season. Like there may just be some cast changing in our social circle and who
Yeah.
we surround ourselves with. Like,
Yeah.
because the important part is like, we're not okay.
Mhm.
Like, and that's really I said the necessity of no.
Mhm.
This current space is not okay.
Right. Right.
And so this movie is bad. Like we got to just take the loss on what we paid for the ticket and the time to
Mhm.
come out, however
Yeah.
long it took to get us to the point we're at now,
Yeah.
and just decide to get up and go see another movie, like to
Yeah.
see something different. And whatever feelings we'll have attached to, man, I spent $20 and I'm just leaving. I spent this and did this. There'll be some guilt
Mhm.
attached to our decision. There'll be some questioning attached to
Yeah.
our judgment, but
Yeah.
ultimately we'll get ourselves in a seat in a movie we do like, and we'll be fine with
Yeah.
the experience.
I like that. That's good. The last thing I'll say is just kind of remembering too, of making sure you're not creating a war inside
Yeah.
by being an abundant giver. Giving is fine, but it can't be at the capacity of your wellness. And
Yeah.
whether that's financial, social, emotional, mental wellness, and know that there are times where you don't have the capacity, learning how to recognize your bandwidth and um, it'll strengthen your relationships when you can recognize your bandwidth because you're not over overextending, you're not resentful. You know, so many people are resentful. Um, and you're doing things that you love and you're finding yourself with more peace. This was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it and how it kind of connected a lot of different things. You know, my goal is to help people like shift their thought process and um, making sure they see their power because that's something that goes missing, unfortunately.
Always a pleasure. My favorite person in mental health. Always a
Oh,
pleasure.
thank you. Jermaine, tell people how they can reach you if they want to work with you. Jermaine, in the top of the session, talked about the DISC assessment is something that he does where there's an assessment and it shows you who you are at baseline, who you are during stress, what we're talking about. Some people don't realize they change during stress, but yeah, sometimes it's drastic. I did one too, and mine's wasn't as drastic in the different areas. Um, but there was a shift. It wasn't the same number,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a shift. And so especially the people that the bars are really drastic. It's important to know that because you may
Yeah.
not see why people don't deal with you or blah blah blah. But tell people how they can reach you if they wanted to take that DISC assessment and even work with you around some of their goal setting.
Yeah. Any questions on the assessment or anything, you can go to mykeystome.com. MyKeystome, mykeystome.com. And you'll see information on the assessment, more information on like some of the coaching stuff, and get you set up for a 15-minute consultation. We can go over everything in detail. And then if you're ready, we can go ahead and get you signed up and started.
All right. This was
And then,
awesome, Jim. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, my
oh no,
bad.
if you're trying to reach me, all social media platforms are at J Morris CEO.
Yes. Um,